We're back. Hello and welcome back to Flip the Switch. I'm so excited to get back into podcast episodes. As you can see, this is a bit of a solo episode. If you're new to Flip the Switch is all about dreaming big. We're all about DIYing our dream careers. So if I can help you just move that a little bit forward, I've done my job. For a week, I chat to a different guest. We sit down, unpack that dream career, get the top tips, work out how you can apply them yourself, and move towards that life of meaning and fulfillment. I firstly just wanted to start off by saying sorry. Genuinely sorry for the bottom of my heart. I wanted to have quite a short break, just in between to kind of get ahead, plan some more podcast episodes, do batch recording as well. And in the theme of this episode, curveballs, life threw me some curveballs. When I tell you my life got flipped upside down, and I'm going to unpack a little bit later about how my life got turned upside down to so much happening, reflection, thinking about my life, understanding where my dream career is and what I truly want to do, and how I've turned it around. I'll be honest with you, I just needed a minute. And doing the podcast every week was something I just needed to let go and put on hold, just so I could look after myself and make sure I just get my mental health back on track. I'm going to share with you today how to get out of a rut, top tips. I'm going to focus on 3 things. I feel like I'm one of those people that just loves to do things in trios. It just helps you to remember them. Turn that rut around, get out of it, and become your best self. As always, I am an independent podcaster. So if you can like, subscribe, drop a comment, please do. That will mean the world. And if you ever want a guest on or a particular subject talked about, hit me up. I can do what I can. That is enough of that. I think it's time to flip the switch. Let's go. The theme of this episode is life throwing you curveballs. And I chatted a little bit before about life throwing me multiple curveballs at once, but genuinely they come at you in terms of they're surprising, they show up when you don't expect them. And that is exactly what happened to me. When I say these curveballs knocked me out, it was just wild. And normally you can kind of handle when one thing happens. So it could be losing your job, your house, your flat situation, money, whatever it is, and you deal with it, right? And so what happened with me was that I had my freelance contract come to an end really unexpectedly. At the same time, I moved out of my flat in London, so I lost basically all control. And then my money situation, of course, was impacted. So with that kind of trio of things happening to me and challenges coming my way, I had to just stop and reflect and understand what is going on. Like, why is this happening to me? Like a few weeks ago, I genuinely was in a rut. I was really, really down. Jobs were not working out for me. I couldn't find anything, even though I feel like I'm pretty qualified for what I do. And so it's led to a lot of reflection. And I went from kind of chaos to calm, clarity and focus. And that is exactly what I'm going to show you how to do today. So as a true multi-hyphenate, I love to split things into sections. And so we're going to do 3 key things of how you can turn yourself out of a rut, overcome that curveball, and the 3-step method I'm going to call the curveball course of action. So the curveball course of action is to get yourself out of that rut. You need these 3 things. Number 1, being kind and learning to reground. Number 2, taking back control. And number 3 is the milestone moments. So let's kick straight off into number 1, which is being kind to yourself and grounding. So I would just want you to have a think about being kind, because when you think about kindness in general, I wonder if you think of a certain person. So for me, that's my mum. I feel like she's the definition of kindness. And is there someone or something that pops up for you? How would it talk to you? Probably not the way that you're talking to yourself right now, right? To be honest with you, I had to really check myself over the last few weeks because I was just wallowing in this spiral of negativity. And I had to just stop and say, Shana, like, what's going on? There's no need to be so hard on yourself. So kindness is doing what you can, where you are, with what you have. And so the actual dictionary definition is being generous, helpful, and thinking about other people's feelings. To be honest with you, I think most of us do that already with our friends, with our family. But when it comes to ourselves, that's when we push it aside. And so the regrounding part of this number one is essentially just hitting that reset button. So let's say you have a negative thought pop up. You're going to have a series of stages that I want you to go through. You're going to have awareness, which essentially means that you hear it. Then it leads to acknowledgement. It's understanding, okay, I'm having this negative thought. And then I want you to move into changing. So you stop that negative thought and you change the trajectory of it. Because if you change that trajectory of it, you are stopping yourself from going into that negative spiral. And only we can do that for ourselves. There's no one else in our heads that can help us and support us. Of course, you can go to someone like a life coach or a therapist to really help you if there's any like really good exercises to do. But we owe it to ourselves to turn ourselves around. So breathing is another one that is kind of tried and tested. It can instantly change the way you feel. The easiest way in any situation is to sit and focus on the breath. As we know, our breathing pattern does change when we get stressed. You can kind of feel the shallow breaths. We're about to do a big meeting or a speech, and that controlling of the breath is an instant way to just calm the nervous system. I think what I love about breathing in general is that you can do it anywhere. You can do it in a busy office. You can just take the time to take a second out and just focus on your breathing. I've also found that as I do it a lot more, I'm learning to notice a lot more when it comes to my breath. So noticing that my breathing is changing just before a meeting or just before a DJ gig. And I can just say to myself, you know what, Shana, let's just focus on the breath, get back to it, be your usual amazing self. And so when we combine those two together, so positive thoughts and breathing, we love a James Clear habit stack. If you haven't read Atomic Habits, please do. We have the breath plus the positive thoughts, and that equals a relaxed body and a relaxed mind. So there was actually this really interesting study where two different groups of participants, one listening to positive kind of thoughts and positive voice notes and the other not. And what they found is that first group actually slowed their heart rate down just by listening to those positive thoughts. I just find that so interesting because the body and the mind are just so intertwined. And so just by doing that positive thought, you can change your breath and your heart rate. And so doing them together, habit stacking, which we love to do, it's going to really, really help you to reground yourself. And the one thing that I really love about this in general is that these are free. You can do them at any moment in your life and really change it. I'm not making you download an app. You can do this all in your head and just increase your awareness of it. Have a think as well about someone that you can look up to. So for me, it's Miley Cyrus, and I listened to a Zane Lowe podcast with her, and she talked about how she reinvents herself every single morning because she sees that as the grounding. So she wakes up every day as a new and better person. And I absolutely love that because every day is genuinely a new day that we can change things. We can make things better for ourselves. And so we can wake up and transform the way we think. You know, you might have had a really bad day that day, but you wake up the next morning, it's a new day, it's a blank slate, and you can achieve anything that you want. So that was numero uno. Let's move on to number two. And number two is taking back control. So taking back control is really tough. I'll be honest. I've had an inner critic for a long time that I've had to really navigate just throughout my 20s that is telling me that you're not good enough, that's telling me you can't do that. Anything that feels kind of out of the box, I would have that kind of inner critic speak up. And that pressure just kept building, especially in the past few weeks. So losing my freelance job that I really, really enjoyed. Like I love working in social impact, and that job for the past 2 years has been amazing, especially in a freelance capacity. Having something ongoing that you can trust, you really enjoy, has been a game changer for me. And so having that end really abruptly was difficult because it made me think about, why is this happening to me? For me, I had a plan, and that plan changed. It had to change. And as a result, my mind was going a million miles per hour. Like genuinely, I had so many thoughts, most of them being negative, I'll be honest. I was going through every single scenario in my head, every worst case possibility. You know, I'm going to be out on the street. I'm not going to have any money. I'm not going to have a good summer and It just never ends. And I'm sure that you feel the same or have felt the same at one point in your life. And what I've realized is that we've never really been taught about how to take back control, whether that comes to our thoughts, whether that comes to our emotions and our lives. So I'm a big self-development girly. Like, I read a lot. Like, that for me is my safe space. Just sit with a book, learn about something new. And I've been doing that ever since I can remember. And so I started to learn and understand more about the psychology of who we are, what makes us tick, and how to take back control. And what I find is with a lot of people, and maybe is something that you can relate to, is that people go in these huge waves of stress and they essentially then have to restart from scratch because it has just gone so up, so down. And let's be honest, it is just not sustainable at all. Like, I have a friend who every couple of months she'll burn out. She'll burn out really, really badly. It is just this insane level of stress. And then she comes down, works on her self-care. And it's difficult. It's one of those things that is not something that we want in our life to, one, just inflict that much stress on our body, on our mind, on who we are, but two, learning how to genuinely cope with it over the long term. So when life throws you curveballs, to be honest, it is helping us build resilience over our lifetime and understanding how we can take a challenge and then how we can solve it. Frankly, shit is going to happen. It's how we navigate it that matters. And I found a really nice quote by Sylvester Stallone, which is, "Life is the management of problems, and whoever manages their problems the best has the best life." Preach. I also saw a really interesting comment on a YouTube video, which was pain inevitable, suffering optional. So I want you to just think back. When have you let yourself suffer? Maybe suffer a little bit more than you should have. I know for me, like, I'm so guilty of doing this. I overthink till the cows come home. I get text anxiety, email anxiety. If I sent a text and I haven't got a response, if I forgot to reply to a text, if I've sent a particular wording in an email, why did I use that choice of word in that email? It just doesn't stop with me. And I do let myself suffer way too much. And I need to learn to take back that control. So I'll be taking and listening to these tips just as much as you. And recently, with everything that's just been going on in my life, I've been thinking about cortisol levels. And cortisol hasn't been something I knew that much about, I'll be honest. Understanding that the stress hormone can really affect us in so many ways. So one thing that I've started to notice is that over the past couple of years I've been freelance, I have been in very intense periods of stress. I think freelance has been really difficult. It's very up and down, and you're in a lot of unknowns. So there's that. And then there's also the stress that I've been inflicting on my body. So I've been doing intensity HIIT workouts like every single day. And I've been doing that without eating. I've been having a coffee on an empty stomach as well, and then fasting until lunch. And so I've been putting a lot of extra pressure on my body without realizing the true implications of what it could do. And so it all kind of came to abrupt when I started realizing, like, I have a bit of a stress belly, and it's called like a cortisol or stress belly. And it means that, like, the rest of your body is, normal. And then you'll have this kind of belly that is basically built up. I started thinking about, the cortisol levels and what I am actually inflicted on my body and mind. Had to learn to just change it up. And that's when I've done this kind of reset. So things that have worked for me that could work for you as well are things like moving to low intensity exercises. I found that really helpful, just starting the day with Pilates and meditation rather than that really intense HIIT. And also making sure that I'm having like a small amount of breakfast. Like, I'm not really a breakfast person, but I do have breakfast now, which has been really weird at first, but you know what? Like, I'm enjoying it. I just have some blueberries and peanut butter and a bit of yogurt. I've started thinking about supplements as well. So things like ashwagandha. I've got this full energy support omega-3. So a couple of things that, I've only just started them, but hopefully they're going to make a difference with my energy levels and just bring everything back to normal is what I really want to get to. That's what I really love is about what's happened here. Like, something that I've kind of been like, Shana, you need to check yourself right now, to picking your life apart and saying, okay, this isn't working for me, because nobody's the same and we all react differently. And I think the way that my body reacts to stress is really, really sensitive. So I have eczema, and whenever I have just a tiny tinge of stress, I can feel my whole body become itchy. Like, I know that my body reacts in a certain way. And so understanding and knowing what works for you and what works and what doesn't is probably the best way, and not thinking about other people. There's no normal with these kind of things. And it's for you to figure that out and go on your own journey. So when you're questioning yourself, taking back control means taking that negative thought and doing this one thing. I call it the why to the what method. The why to the what method helps us change the way we feel. You're probably going to be thinking, why me? Why is this happening to me? Instead is, what is life trying to teach me right now? What is the lesson that I can learn here? What can I do to change the way that I feel? This also can stop the way that we feel that we want to give up and we want to quit. You can't just throw in the towel because life gets tough. We know that life is going to throw us some curveballs, and it's making sure that we're ready, we're resilient, we can do this. Not to bring it back to Miley Cyrus, but the climb, there's always going to be another mountain. I'm always going to want to make it move. Like, what better advice can you get right now? Wise words from our queen. It's interesting as well, because when I thought about those questions of like, what is life trying to teach me here? I started to realize that maybe the job that I was in, I was getting too comfortable in. And I found that because of that freelance job, which I absolutely loved, I wasn't giving the time to DJing, to radio presenting. I was not moving the needle forward. It was kind of tiny micro movements. And so the dream for me is to get onto commercial radio, the biggest stations in the world. I want to be a touring DJ. I want to give back. I want to have a massive community that I can help, support. I want to make a difference. And so that job maybe was not doing that in the most inadvertent ways. Life has this funny way of kind of saying and nudging you in a different direction and saying, hold on a sec, maybe you need to try this. Maybe you need to give it a go. And I truly believe now the reason why that freelance contract ended was so I can push myself and I could try a new challenge in the music industry. Since that happened, I've started getting booked a lot for DJ gigs. My presenting skills, I've been really working on. I did a presenting course, which I just don't think I'd have the capacity to have done at that point in my life. So all these things are really working out. And so just have a think about what life is trying to tell you at that moment when you get that curveball. I was reading up about it, and psychologists essentially call it this hedonic treadmill of life. We don't want to get off it. It's comfortable. And it's the reason why when people are miserable or just not that happy with their current job, they don't get out of it. The risk of jumping off is too high. And so we stick to the stability, which I totally get. But sometimes life will throw you off anyway, whether you get made redundant or something can happen, and it makes you think. And that's what this podcast is all about, is people that are getting off that treadmill, that are going and creating their dream careers. We love it. That got me thinking about the word happiness. For me, I've been on this journey of finding a state of clarity. I've been going back to the simple things. What are the simple things that make me happy? What does a dream life mean to me? I've been kind of journaling out my dream day, my dream week, my dream year. And just recently, literally yesterday, I've got a dream job in the music industry. It's a freelance job. It's working for a massive festival company. It's moving the needle forward. It's putting me in the right place. Because the true elements, when we really break it down, of happiness are three things. So number one is enjoyment. Number two is satisfaction. And three is purpose. Enjoyment being what makes you happy. Are you doing truly what you love? Number two, satisfaction. Like, how actually satisfied are you right now in this moment? Because let's be honest, nothing will change if you stay the same. And so to be more satisfied, we have to change. And then thirdly, purpose is understanding, are we living every day to our values? How can you do that? Can you do that more? Honestly, an ongoing thing, but we want to be constantly working towards it. And that's where it's all kind of come back around, because I've realized that I've dropped the ball on so many things by just throwing myself into the freelance project just because I loved it so much. I was seeing that as the full time rather than the freelance. So there's events that I love to run, flip the switch. We had multiple events last year and I kind of put them on a back burner, I'll be honest. There were gigs that I love to go to that I stopped going to. And what I'm doing now is this kind of resetting of trying to bring everything back, doing what I truly love. But again, as well, like just being very wary of how much you can actually take on, because for me, just because I have gone through this period of a rough patch, I know that I can only take on a certain amount at a time, just slowly bringing things back one thing at a time so I can slowly refill my cup. And this is where I really want you to think about happiness and your state of clarity. How are you creating your true source of happiness every single day? How are you taking that curveball and turning it into something amazing? And on to number 3, which is milestone moments. This one's a little bit less obvious. Like number 2, we talked about taking back control, and that really is a huge, huge step. And number 1, being kind and learning to reground. But number 3 is all about connecting to your mission. Really like milestone moments because it's so visual. Like for me, I see a road that I'm heading towards. My big dreams are kind of on the sign. I'm like on that way. And what happens in life is that you got to do a U-turn. You've got to change direction. Things just might not work out. But all you know is that you just got to trust that process. And sometimes you have to have a pit stop to realign. And so my pit stop was a couple of weeks ago when I've just been reflecting and really, really thinking, looking at that bigger picture, and sometimes feels so overwhelming and daunting. I actually do think every few months, looking at your goals is a great way to just feel that realignment, get back on track. I was kind of ignoring the bigger picture. I was ignoring the bigger dream as well. I was literally self-sabotaging my dream in a sense. And so when you ever feel like a bit out of line, I really urge you to just spend some time, get some pen, paper, journal, whatever it is, and draw out your dream day, your dream week, and your dream year. It's so fun. Like just being like, what could I do with my day? How often would I travel? What would I be doing? What time would I be waking up? Like really specific details. And that has made me think, actually, yeah, like I was so out of line with my dream life. Like I was really far away. Whereas now I am so much closer with this new job, so much closer with my current calendar. It's that one step in front of the other. Just keep going, keep trying. Life throwing you obstacles is a perfect time to just get back on track and relook at your goals, get inspired again. Then you have your bigger dreams, like they're those kind of directions. And then you have your goals, which are kind of your everyday. What are the things that you're doing to move them forward? And then you just can't forget gratitude. So you have your dreams, you have your goals, you have your gratitude. Gratitude as well isn't just saying, I'm grateful for my family, my friends. It's seeing beauty and being grateful in everything that we do. I really love this Japanese concept called Shirin-yoku or Shirin-yoku. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it, so I'm sorry if I absolutely slaughtered it. But it's essentially going into nature, into a forest, and using nature for the mind. Forest bathing, essentially. And it ties really nicely into this idea of gratitude and being grateful and grounding ourselves. Like that was number 1, is being kind and grounding. And we have as well, like when we're stuck in one room, when we're sat by the desk all day, there's nowhere for our ideas to release. But when you go out on that walk, you've got space to breathe, to think and reflect. And I really urge you to go for a walk in nature and not bring your headphones. I've been trying to do like 70-30. So I do love a podcast. You know, I'm a podcaster and I do love listening to a good podcast on a walk, but I've been trying to break that up with maybe a couple of times that I just go and have a think about life, what I'm grateful for that day, what I'm really excited about, just how I'm showing up and what I need to think about. And it gives you space as well to just be bored. I know it sounds weird, but we're never bored anymore. And it's really important to have that space. And there's kind of like the 3 W's if you ever need it, which is walk, water, and window. When you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling a certain way, have those 3 things and it will get you back on track. And that is coined from Jay Shetty. That isn't mine. I have no copyright in that. Let's go back to our dream for a second. And we're hopefully applying those kind of 3 ways to get ourselves out of that rut, to learn how to conquer those curveballs and turn them into positive things. When we're dreaming alongside all of that and we kind of bring in that Delulu energy, which I'm a big fan of because dreams are just these huge, huge things. They're in a way fantasy, right? They stay in our heads. And so the delusional side of us will help us just go for it no matter what. And that can only be a good thing. You know, there's so many innovators out there who transform the world and people called them mad when they were doing their thing. And so dreaming big is just like what an innovator does, is dreaming so big that people are like, wait a second, what's going on? I actually really recommend that you read the book Innovator's DNA. It basically goes through what a true innovator has in terms of characteristics, the way they think, and how you can be more like one. Essentially, what it does is they take their dreams, they experiment, they play. It's your life. You can take back control and you can do what you want with it, which I think is a genuinely beautiful thing. It's also appreciating your own abilities, your own qualities, and the hard work that you know that you're already putting in. Let's make it happen. I really do hope that this has inspired you to just get yourself out that rut and able to conquer any curveball that is thrown at you. So that's all from me. As always, stay subscribed. Make sure you drop a like, comment, all the rest. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next week.